Welcome everybody. Here I am. I'm back as So Start Stone with me, the Nelly. How are you doing all? I seem to have aged about 500 years since last you've seen me, but hey, well, there you go. So, who is here? Who indeed? Well, hi Sherry, you're here, and Jane's here, and Julie. Hello, Julie. Hello, Rob. How are you all doing? How is everybody? Anyway, I pressed a button and I don't know what I did. Anyway, never mind. I'll figure it out. There we go. Thanks, Rob. Don't look a day over 400. Hey, I moisturize. Hi, Neshi. Oh, and I've got hiccups. Hi, Jocelyn. I've got coffee. Just let me get rid of these. They may have gone. They may not. Who knows? So, anyway, it's a bright sunshiny day here in bright sunshiny England. Let's just adjust. I can't see a thing on this screen, but anyway, never mind. Alrighty. Right. Well, thank you, Sherry. That's very kind of you to say. But you're drinking coffee and I'm drinking tea. Something is backwards. Well, Rob, all I can say is it's not me. Anyway, so I digress. So today's show was going to be whatever it was going to be, because I kind of got no plans. So thank you, Neshi. Neshi's sharing the show. Thank you very much. Anyway, yeah, I'm a bit out of practice. I can't remember the last time I did this. So we're just going to wing it today. But I do remember the last, what keeps blowing about, something or another. Well, whatever. I've got the window open, there's a bit of a breeze, things are floating about. Anyway, that's all good, it's all fine. It's all super cool and groovy. And what am I doing with this? Oh, that's how you do that. There we go. That's a bit better. Anywho. So. Yeah, anyway. So, here we go. I do remember last time I was thinking about telling you a story that kind of included an owl, which would have been the story of Blodeuwedd. But then I realised you can't tell the story of Blodeuwedd until you've told the story of Llw. No, it's pronounced Cly. Sorry. So that's an easy one. Should we do that? What do you think? Well, I think it's a good plan anyway. I've got my giant blue rock and everything is good. Everything is cool and groovy. So then, anyway, but before I start, how is everybody? I ain't seen you all in ages. What's been going on? What have I missed? I know I've not been on the Tinterweb for much recently. Things have been either doing this, doing that, whatever. Just being a bit crazy. Mum's doing a lot better now, so that's good. So the stress of that is sort of dissipated massively. But then on the other side, it does involve a bit more work with in other ways. So, it's just one of those things. It gets a bit crazy. All is good, really. All is good. So thank you, everybody, for sending all your prayers and blessings and healing energies. It's very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. More than I can say. So, I haven't really got any other news for you. Oh, apart from Jane. See you in a week, Jane. A week yesterday. Yes, it's the retreat next week, and we're all going, and it's going to be awesome. Yes, it's going to be a special one this year, a very special one. So, I'll probably tell you all about that when I get back. Or maybe I won't, I'll keep it a secret, who knows. Anywho, so are you all sitting comfortably? And if you are, then I shall begin. Can everybody hear me okay, by the way? Let's just adjust. I can hear me, but then I'm sat here, so it's bound to, aren't I? Anyway, shall we start? So, once upon a long time ago, over in Wales, Snowdonia region, and on the coast, this story is set. And it's about a boy. It's a bit of a sad story, really. Yeah, but a lot of them are, I suppose. Anyway, the lad, this boy, disowned by his mother and also cursed 3 times by her. It was, this is all about him and his future wife and the trials and tribulations that they encountered. So when the boy was born, he was immediately disowned by his mother, but his uncle, Gwydion, he rescued him and raised him as his own. His nephew, but raised him all as his own son. And the boy grew quickly, and he grew strong, and he was clever. And one day, when he was of an age where he was needed to be named, Gwydion took the lad to his mother, Arianrhod, who, if you look further into stories and things, she's a goddess as well. But, you know, that's a whole lot of other stories. So, they went along to Caer Arianrhod, where she lived. Arianrhod being his mother, and Gwydion demanded of her. Well, let me back up a little bit. Gwydion introduced him to her, and she said, "A fine lad indeed. Who is he? What is his name?" And Gwydion said, "He is your son, and he is here for you to name him." Well, as I've skipped over a bit of backstory here, you won't understand the reasons why, but we'll get to that another day, maybe. She was angry and embarrassed and ashamed, and through all those emotions, she said, "No, never shall he be named. I want nothing more to do with him or you. Begone. He shall never have a name unless I give it to him. And with that, she turned and left, leaving Gwydion and the boy alone. So they departed. But Gwydion, what you don't know about him is he is not just a prince, but a mighty magician. So leaving it a few days, Gwydion hatches a plan. And once again takes the boy to Caer Arianrhod, where he poses as a shoemaker outside the castle walls. And he starts making shoes, the most magnificent shoes that anybody has ever seen. And Arianrhod receives word of this, and she gives her servant her shoe size, her measurements. It wasn't really shoe sizes back then. That's a modern thing. She gives her servant the measurements of her feet and sends him off to have shoes made. Well, Gwydion makes the first pair of shoes too big. And the servant returns and says, "Sir, these shoes are too big." And Gwydion makes another pair, makes them deliberately too small. Yes, she is, Rob. Maybe another day. You'll understand why. Anyway, so so he makes the next pair of shoes too small, and the servant takes them back to his mistress and then returns again and says, "Sir, these shoes are too small." And Gwydion says, "I cannot make a proper pair of shoes without seeing her foot. She must come to me, and I shall make her the most magnificent shoes the world has ever seen." So the servant trots back to Arianrhod, relates the message to her, and she duly arrives at Gwydion's stall. Gwydion being in disguise, it must be said, as is the boy. So Gwydion starts making these shoes, and a wren lands upon a post quite far distant, and the boy, he picks up a stone and throws it at the wren, striking it on the knee, and it flies off. And Arianrhod cried, "What a beautiful, an amazing boy! A fair one with a deft hand. What is his name?" And Gwydion looked at Arianrhod, letting his disguise fall away, and said, "He didn't have a name, but he does now. Llai Claw Gafes, the fair one with the deft hand, son of light." And Arianrhod is incandescent with rage, having been tricked by Gwydion in such a way. And she looks at him and looks at the boy, and she says, "Well, you may have tricked me this time. He may have a name, but he shall never be a man with arms or armor unless I give it to him, which I never will." And she storms off. Gwydion and the boy then return home. And after a while, after years have passed, when the boy becomes of an age where his to his duties are such that he will require arms, he will require armor. Gwydion hatches a new plan. Excuse me. And then, Gwydion hatches a new plan. So, casting his magic, he disguises himself and the boy, Clai Claugafes. I'm practicing the name. It's a bit difficult to say. It's Welsh. Anyway, so Gwydion and the boy are disguised as bards, and they approach Arianrhod's castle once again. And announces at the gate to the porter, "Tell your mistress there are bards at the gate." And the porter duly trots off and relays the message, and Arianrhod is delighted. "Bring them forth, we shall have a feast," she says. And she gathers the members of the court and and they all gather in the main hall, and a feast is held, and Gwydion, who is a mighty storyteller, relays them of great tales and of song and of poetry, and a great and wondrous time and night is had by all. And at the end, they all retire to bed. That morning early, the following morning rather, not the same morning, Gwydion conjures a fleet of ships upon the ocean, approaching Caer Arianrhod. Trumpets ablaze, trumpets crying, a great and thunderous roar from the ocean, and an alarm is sounded within the castle. And Arianrhod sends for all her men to defend. But the fleet upon the ocean is too mighty. She has not enough men, and she approaches Gwydion, still in disguise, and says, "You must help us. You must help us. We have not enough men. We need all that we can." And Gwydion says, "We are but bards. We have no arms. We have no armor. We cannot help but lock ourselves in our rooms." And Arianrhod says to him, "I shall supply you with arms and armor, you and your companion both." And she sends her servants to fetch what is needed. And the servants bring arms and armor for both Gwydion and Clai, also still in disguise. And Gwydion says to Arianrhod, I shall arm myself. You help the young man. He has no experience of this." And Arianrhod said, I shall indeed. Just please help us." So Gwydion puts on his arms and his sword by his side. And then once the boy is armed by Arianrhod herself, Gwydion allows the illusion of the ships of the invaders to fade. He allows his own disguises of him and the boy to fade. And he says to Arianrhod, "Hello, Peggy." That's what not he said, but, Peggy's just arrived and she says good morning. So I thought, say hello to her. So I did. Anyway, so the illusion and disguises are let fall. And he says to Arianrhod, "Thank you. The boy is now armed. He has his armor. He is now a man." Then we will be gone. We will be away. But Arianrod flies into the most terrible rage. A rage not seen since Ceridwen lost the Cauldron of Inspiration that we talked about last time. Anyway, so it's such incandescent rage you have never seen before. And she says, well, you may have tricked me once, you may have tricked me twice, but you shall not trick me a third time. I laid down this curse upon him. He shall never have a wife of a race from a race of the earth. And that was it. That was all she said. There was no, unless I present her to him, there was no get out clause on this one. There was no easy way around this curse. She kind of tied it up in a nice little bow. So, but there was nothing she could do about his name, nor the arms that she had presented to him. She had to let that one go, and Gwydion and Cly left for home. But the curse bothered Gwydion greatly, because ultimately Cly was a prince and would ultimately one day rule the land. He would be chief, he would be king. And a king is expected to have a wife. Without one, he really could not be king. So he went to his uncle Math. Math was a greater wizard, magician, sorcerer than Gwydion even. And they spoke and planned and thought, and eventually came upon a plan. And what they would do, they would go into the forest. They would gather flowers from the oak, from the broom, and from meadowsweet. These trees and plants that don't normally grow together. They would gather these flowers, and using them combined magical powers, they would bring into the world a wife for Cly. So for 3 days, they laid out these flowers in the form of a person, of a woman, and they cast their enchantments and magical spells upon the earth. And after the 3 days, a woman's figure formed beneath the flowers. And because she was not born of a race of the earth, as in us, she could marry Cly. And Cly was delighted by his new bride. She was more beautiful than words of any language could describe. And they called her Blodeuwedd. Actually, there's 2 spellings of Blodeuwedd, but I'm not going to bother us with that one right now. So Blodeuwedd and Cly were introduced, and they were married. And they lived quite happily for a time. As it seems in these stories, these times always arrive where something inevitably goes wrong. Well, once Cly was married, he was given lands to rule over as his own. And in that ruling, he needed to make his presence known, that the people who lived under him felt his presence, and that he would be a good a good leader to them, that he would be kind with them, that he would look after them and protect them. And he would have to do a circuit of the land every so often, just to make sure everything's okay, everything's happy. And the people were happy. But that left Blodeuwedd at home, and she wasn't. Blodeuwedd was a nature spirit. She was born of the wilderness, of the wild wood, and courtly life wasn't really her thing. She liked to be out in the forest. She had the heart of a tree spirit. She needed the freedom of nature because that's where she was born of. So she would be out having fun in the wild, in the woods, but she would always come home. She would leave the running of the castle to people that knew what they were doing. She didn't want to be involved in that kind of thing anyway. It's not her. It's not what she does. It's not her. It's not her. She didn't like it. It was dull. It was dull. But they got on. They managed, and for a time they were reasonably happy until until at a time when Cly was away surveying the land. A hunter called Gronyu and his hunting party strayed into their lands. Well, Gronyu, he was a big lad. He was huge, muscular, and he had the scent of the hunt on him. And Blodeuwedd was quite taken aback. She was rather smitten by this man, and she sent her servants to invite them to dinner. For, as she explained it, it would be the proper thing to do because she wanted to meet him. She wanted to meet him and talk with him and be close to him. So a feast was prepared, and Gronyu and his hunting party was invited, and they accepted. And a good time was had by all. It was a most magnificent feast. And at the end, when everybody was beginning to retire to their own rooms, Blodeuwedd invited Gronyu to come and stay with her, which he duly did. The following day, Gronyu wanted to take his leave of her, but she said, "No, you must stay. You must stay with me. I need you. I need you. You must stay. We must stay together. We must be together." For he was as wild as she was, and that excited her. She liked Cly well enough, but due to duty bound him where it did not bind her, and her and Gronyu were of a kind. So he stayed a night and a third, and at the end of the third they realized that this could not continue, for Cly was a prince, a lord, she was his wife, and this was more than frowned upon. So they hatched a plan. Gronyu could not live without Blodeuwedd, and Blodeuwedd could not live without Gronyu. Cly would never agree to releasing her, for she was his queen. There were so many big problems here. So they had only one choice in their minds. They had to kill Cly. Well, Gronyu left for his own lands as Cly returned home. And then Blodeuwedd, she had a skill for not letting show anything that she didn't want other people to know. So Cly had no inclination that anything was wrong. That Cly had met Gronyu. Blodeuwedd had met Gronyu. That she and he were just were plotting a way to be rid of him. The days passed, and Blodeuwedd seemed sad. Cly said to her, "What is it, my queen? You seem sad." Because you notice these kind of things, you know. And she said, "I worry. Many times you have to leave and go off. I worry that one day you may not come back, that you may be killed, that I will be left alone. What would become of me?" She was a bit sneaky with that. And Cly said, "Do not worry. I am not easily killed. My father, Gwydion, he cast powerful magic over me." Hello, Rochelle. How are you? Um, powerful protection over me. And unless the gods take me, I am not easily killed. What does that mean? Asked Blodeuwedd. And Cly said, "Well, I can't be killed inside or outside. I cannot be killed on foot or on horseback. So, as you see, there's not much to worry about." And he says, "I could only be killed by a spear, even if those other other criteria are met. I can only be killed by a spear a year and a day in the making, and then only on a holy day." Well, that sounds that you're quite safe then, says Blodeuwedd, and sets to thinking. But she sends a message to Gronyu to start preparing a spear. while she prepares to, how do I put it? While she tries to find a way of getting around the magical protection that Gwydion has placed on Llai. Well, what time is it? Just checking the time. Yeah, we've got time for me to finish the story. So, eventually, Blodaiweth comes up with a plan to usurp the magic of Gwydion. And a year later, as a year later, she has made her preparations. So, Llai is returning from a circuit of his lands. His people are happy. The land is thriving. And Blodaiweth has her plan, and Gronyu is ready. As Llai returns, she greets him, but she can barely contain her own nerves, but she manages it. She says, "Welcome home, husband. Let me take your cloak. Come and let me show you my new bathhouse." Blodaiweth has had a bath, a bathing structure built down by the river. A bath with a thatched roof, but no walls, just the roof. And she says, "Come, husband, you must be tired. You must be sore from your journey. Let me bathe you." And Llai is, that sounds pretty good. Yeah. Llai thinks nothing of it because, why would you? And he goes, "Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thank you. You are such a thoughtful wife." And she takes him down to the river and she starts to bathe him. And once they are finished, she allows him to stand and to step out of the tub. Gronyu, by this time, is waiting behind a bush on a small hill, not far away. So he stands to come to get out of the bath, but it's raised up. It's not, it's not like a sunken tub. It's, raised up. So he's climbing out, and she says, "Careful, husband, careful. Please do not slip. You will injure yourself." And as he stands, Blodaiweth brings out a billy goat. She says, "Here, place one foot on this goat so you do not fall." And so he does. He stands both on the tub and places one foot on the goat to steady his balance. And at that moment, Gronyu lets his spear fly, striking Llai, piercing his skin and his heart. And that is possibly all you would think about there, that Llai would be dead and Gronyu and Blodaiweth would be free to live together. Well, you'd be wrong, because at the instant the arrow pierced the chest of Cly, he transformed into an eagle and flew off into the sky. Gronyu and Blue Dyweth stayed together. Gronyu took over Cly's land and claimed it as his own. And they kind of just got wrapped up in each other, you know. She was she was a nature spirit, and he was a wild huntsman, and they got on really well. But time moved on, and doubts began to creep into the mind of Gronyu. He had, after all, killed the rightful lord of that land, taken his wife and his land as his own, and Cly was beloved of Math and Gwydion, two of the most powerful men of the country. You'll have to check the archives about what, Rob? Maybe I've missed something. I don't know. Product costing and computer malfunctions. Yeah, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. Maybe it's my computer. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Math and Gwydion. And Gronyu knew that sooner or later he was going to have a fight on his hands. And not just a fight of men, but a fight against wizards. And that's not something you want. So, Gwydion finally hears the news of what had happened to Cly. He goes to his uncle Math, and says that he must go and find him. He must find his son. I know I said Cly's his nephew, but he raised him as his son. That's how he felt. So anyway, it's a big thing. Where was I? Oh, a psychic war, wizards. Yeah, don't. Oh, yeah, yeah. Let's just. I mean, we've all seen that thing in Harry Potter. Yeah. Let's just say it would be worse by about 1,000,000. So, I mean, Voldemort against Math, no contest. I'm just saying. So, Math agrees he must go and find Cly, and so he does. He sets off searching the land for his lost son, and on this journey, he comes across the story of a pig that runs off every morning, returns every night, fed, feeling very well fed. So he goes and no, I can't remember the guy's name now who owned the pig, but anyway. So he goes and finds this man and talks to him about his pig. He says, yeah, she goes off every morning. Don't know where she goes. Comes back really well fed. Don't know what's going on, but not costing me anything. She's getting bigger. Everything's good. Well, sir, well, thinks Gwydion, there's something magical happening here. So the very next morning, he gets up, and Rob says he's at work and keeps getting pulled away. Oh, now I understand. Oh, right, that makes more sense now. I was wondering what archives he was going to check. But anyway, So Gwydion gets up early the following morning, and waits for the pig to depart and follow it. So he does. Off he trots, following this pig, and eventually finds the pig at the foot of a great old oak tree. And he sees the pig rooting around at the base of this oak tree, eating maggots and rotting flesh and getting really well fed on it. Yeah, it was a bit gross, but that's what was happening. But he looked into the tree, and he could see right on the top branch an old an old sickly eagle, f- feathers of it was threadbare. Let's put it that way. It was a threadbare eagle. It lost feathers. You could see the wound in its side. It was just, flesh and maggots, or rotting flesh was dropping from it, and it was all it was, and it would look really. It was dying. It was on his last legs. Not only he only had two, but as he looked at the eagle, he could sense that this was the eagle. This eagle was his son. This was Cly. And he looked up into the tree. Now he so yeah. Anyway, so he looked up into the tree, and he used his magic once again to encourage the eagle to come down, to come to him. And he chanted this magical spell. These Yeah, we'll call it a magical spell. It's more of a magical encouragement. And he says, now bear in mind, this would sound so much better in Welsh, but I can't say it in Welsh, so you'll just have to imagine it. An oak grows between two lakes. Very dark is the sky and valley. Unless I am mistaken, this is because of Cly's flowers. And the eagle comes down part way, comes back down to a lower branch. And Gwydion chants on further. An oak grows on a high plain. Rain no longer wets it, heat no longer melts it. It has sustained one who has 90 attributes. In its top is Chlai Clow Gafes. And the eagle comes down further. And he chants on further. An oak grows on a slope, the refuge of a handsome prince. Unless I am mistaken, Cly will come to my lap. And with that, the eagle flies down, and Gwydion embraces it. And with a further verse of power and the casting of a spell, he transforms the eagle back into Cly, and makes the long journey home. Not to Cly's castle, no, to his castle, where it takes him a whole year using magical healing powers to restore Cly to health. I need a drink. Just to give me a sec. Oh, 10 minutes. Yeah, I've got time. Anyway, so he restores Clyde to health. Now, obviously, a reckoning now has to be made for what Blood-Eye Weth and Gronyu had done. They went to Math and said, we need justice. And Math agreed. Math being the High King of the whole thing, you know, High King. Math agreed. And so the three of them, plus their war band, obviously, rocked up back at Clyde's castle. And justice was demanded. Now, Gronyu, being a bloke and pretty much when faced, the kind, they do something wrong, and then when they're faced with having to, deal with the consequences, they get a bit, oh, it wasn't me, I didn't mean to. Well, he was like that. So he blamed Blood-Eye Weth. It was all her. She bewitched me. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. He offered to return all Clyde's land and to give him his own land as recompense for killing him, at least trying to kill him. He would have killed him, but he didn't. That's not the point. But anyway, but Clyde wanted nothing more. He didn't want. That's not what he wanted. He only wanted one thing. He wanted the opportunity to strike the same blow on Gronyu as Gronyu struck on him. Gronyu would stand where Clyde had, and Clyde would stand where Gronyu had, and Clyde would throw a spear at him. That's what he wanted. That's what he was going to have. Well, there wasn't much option, but Gronyu had to agree. But he obviously tried to get somebody else to stand in his place, and they all said, no. So Gronyu had to stand on the very spot where Clyde had stood a year or so before. And then he said, but obviously, because I was bewitched by this, woman, and it's not my fault, can I have a stone placed in front of me because I'm a bit chicken? Well, he didn't say that last bit, but, it's because he was. Well, Clyde agreed. So Gronyu's men got the biggest stone that they could find, and Gronyu crouched behind it. Well, Gronyu was big, but this stone was bigger. Well, Clyde didn't really care because he was Clyde Gafes, and he doesn't miss no matter what's stuck in front of his target. So Gronyu's sitting behind the stone, and Clyde lets the spear fly, and the spear strikes the stone, piercing it clean and piercing Gronyu, killing him stone dead. I've got a picture for you because this is in Wales. I just want you to show. I want you to show this. Oh yeah, there it is. That is Llech Gronw, or Gronw Stone. It's a real place. It's a real thing. What do you think about that, boys and girls? Anyway, so back to the story, which I've only got 5 minutes yet. I've got enough time. So Gronew's dead. Gwydion and Math had to lay down the punishment for Blood Iweth. Now, she was who she was, and it was partially their responsibility for this whole situation, I suppose. Anyway, so and Cly, you know, he still loved Blood Iweth, and he didn't want her to be killed like Gronw, because although she plotted against him, it wasn't. He kind of had an understanding of the wildness of her own nature. So the punishment for Blood Iweth was not to be killed, but she would have the light taken away from her. And Math and Gwydion chanted their words and verses of power, and they transformed her into an owl that she would only hunt at night, and she would live in the dark. And that's pretty much the end. So there was an owl, there was an eagle. That is there's a whole other area of story between Gwydion and Math and Gwydion's brother that preceded that part of the story, which was from the fourth branch of the Mabinogion, or the Mabinogi. But I just wanted to tell you that bit because it was, it's a really good tale. I'm not the greatest storyteller in the world, that I admit, but one of the big, I suppose for me personally, one of the big, how do I put it? One of the big attractions about that particular area of the story, yes, it is a Welsh one. It's from the Mabinogion. I've got the book. I posted it a couple of times ago. I'll put it up again, actually. It can be a bit dry with the translations and everything, but if you tease through into the story itself, the essence of the story, it's amazing. But the point I'm trying to get to is that all the places that are mentioned in the Mabinogion, especially the fourth branch, exist. Let me just bring this one up. That, although it looks like a bit of grass and a bit of sea, on a slant even, that is Dinas Dithli. I think that's how you pronounce it, on the coast of Wales. And that is where Caer Arianrhod was. You can find that stone that exists. Apparently, there was two. The two found. There was that one and another one found in 1990. What was it called? It translates as Gronew's grave. There was another stone there as well. So there's when you read the story, you can actually find the places that the story tells you about. And that says to me that basically all these stories are real and it all happened. Oh, I almost forgot. Nearly forgot this. At the end of the story, so let's just scoot back. Math and Gwydion transformed Blodeuwedd into an owl as her punishment for attempting to murder her husband. Math then broke his staff, his magical staff, over his knee and cast it away, and that was the last magic he ever performed. The end. There you go. Well, apparently I've reached the end of the show. It was a bit fitty and starty and, stoppy starty kind of thing with trying to remember all the stuff. But we got there in the end. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Yeah, broke his magic because of all that had happened. So yeah, it's but if you like I say, I'll post the book again in a minute, and like everything else, everything's available either on the Tinterweb or on the Amazon. And if you wanted to have another read or have a read, it's it's just wonderful. Well, thank you, Nashi. That is very kind of you to say. I'm glad to be back too. And yes, the Mabinogion is one of the. There are others. There are other stories, and there's the Welsh stories, there's the Scottish stories, there's the Irish stories. There are English stories. There are stories from the continent, because Druidry was over there as well. So there's stories from all over, and it's just fun. The stories are not just fun though. They teach us many things, and they teach us who we are, and they teach us that magic is real. So I'm going to say ta-ta. Have a very nice story. Enjoyed it. Relaxing. Well, thank you. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe I'll do another one another time. I don't know what I'm doing next month. We'll figure it out. But until then, have a great and glorious day. Go outside, hug trees. Oh! I know I'm running over, but I don't care. I'll just put that up. Thank you, Sherry. It's very kind of you to say. It really is. And Jocelyn said that too. Thank you. It's really cool. Right. So I posted a link on the page, on the Starter Stone page, last week, I think. So there's a charity in the US that is doing reforesting projects around the world. And so I posted that because it's all about trees and reforesting various places, North America, South America, Africa. I think there's somewhere else as well. And basically, a donation of $1 plants one tree. So what I'm asking is, let's reforest the world and save the planet for $1. Isn't that awesome? Let's do it. So, but if you're not comfortable with doing a donation, I would please ask you to share the linky thing so that it could just be, let's save the planet for $1. Be awesome. So I'll make that go on there again as well. I don't know why I'm pointing, because it's in the air and I'm not really pointing at anything. So anyway, right, I'm going to stop yammering on now, and I was going to put that. Well, if you hang around long enough, you'll probably hear another one. But thank you. That's very kind of you to say. So I'm going to post that link again and post some links to some other bits and bobs, and well, have a look, have fun, enjoy, and have a great and glorious day. Peace and blessings to everybody, and I will see you again, hopefully, next month. Bye, everybody.